Who?
My two adults.
Very good. And how about this end?
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Movies About Movies podcast. I am one of your hosts, David McLaughlin. With me, as always, is my co-host,
Mario from Boston.
And if you were with us the last episode when we reviewed and talked about Singing in the Rain, you know that today we are talking about Ed Wood, the Tim Burton movie released September 28th, 1994.
That's right. This is probably Tim Burton's grittiest, funniest, one of his most depressing movies too. But you could feel like he made it. There's just so much love in it.
Yeah, that seems to be a theme between the movies. And I mean, Tim Burton, he's known for so many films. Between like Beetlejuice, Ed Wood, I don't know, what would you say is his best one?
I think, if you're a person that likes theater, plays, and like songs and stuff, you're gonna go somewhere between Sweeney Todd, Nightmare Before Christmas, and stuff like that. I think Ed Wood, honestly. Yeah, it might be Ed Wood. Is some of his best written stuff. I love it so much. You know, he's really sharp.
I feel guilty of being that musical, theater, stage loving person, but I'm also a sucker for a really good comedy drama.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is his masterpiece with that. I think as a character, Beetlejuice has more of a cultural impact. You still see people dressed as him.
For sure, yeah. A Nightmare Before Christmas too, I think.
I don't feel right giving him credit.
That's fair. That's fair. You know what I mean?
His name on that is like Bela Lugosi's in Plan 9. It's like he was sure he was there. But I don't know, man. I just feel like we don't get to talk as much. Like, this podcast is a good chance for us to have a conversation with a goal in mind.
That's true. I like it. I like talking with a mission in mind.
And I was thinking about sort of our last conversation, and when we were talking about Singing in the Rain, I mentioned how tough it is to self-tape.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in between our tapings, I have done my first ever self-tape for a feature film. And let me tell you the agony actors have to go through in today's day and age.
Go through it, please.
They had very specific naming and file criteria for this. They wanted it in a .mov file, which .movs, I learned, are much larger.
Yeah, I was going to say, I never heard of that.
Yeah, most things are like a .mp4, which is still large, but not quite as high quality as a .mov.
Right.
And they wanted it sent through either a Vimeo or a WeTransfer link. And both of those have a free trial that you can just, use it free up to a certain number of gigs.
Right. Oh, okay.
The .mov absolutely crushes that free amount. Like, there is no amount of compressing, nothing you can do. So to even audition for a role, you have to buy the premium of either Vimeo or WeTransfer, and then hope that they watch it and give you the role, because I couldn't even do the free week trial because I can't guarantee they're going to watch my clip in 7 days.
Right, so you don't want to use it yet. How much is an actual trial? A subscription?
Like $15 a month.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got quick on that cancel.
Right.
As soon as I saw they downloaded, I'm like, all right, tap out. But how about you? I know you've been a busy working man, but I know you were saying you were reading and watching other stuff because it sort of inspired you.
Yeah. After watching that, I for whatever reason, it made me want to read just like stuff from back then, and I got into Cormac McCarthy, trying to get into Blood Meridian, but in the spirit of like reading stuff that is movie related, I figured why not try No Country for Old Men, which is less intense, but really still poetic. And yeah, I've been trying doing it on audio instead of reading it in paper, which is different to me. It's not as satisfying, but I also can't lose books as fast, so that's good.
No Country for Old Men is unique in that I haven't finished the movie or the book, and I started both.
Really? Oh, wow. What's the reason for stopping both?
We had to pick our own book in junior year and do a paper on it. But you seem like you're a fast reader. I feel like it takes me forever to get through a book.
Yeah, I guess only when I'm really into something though, you know, then that's when I really get into stuff. But otherwise, I'll just snooze on it. You know, I'll lose interest like anyone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm more of like I read a book once and then that's it. Whereas on something like movies, like I can watch it over and over again and it sort of becomes a comfort thing.
Is there any books you've read over and over?
Holes.
Holes, that's a good book to read over and over. That's a good story. I liked Holes.
I have done papers in college, high school, and elementary school on Holes. I think it's a masterpiece.
Oh, wow. This is your go-to, huh?
Oh, yeah. When I was doing my summer class and I got to do an entire paper on the signs and holes, just all the things you can extract about sort of the movie and sort of how the camp is run just from certain props. It was really unique, like the fact that he's transferred to the school in a school bus that's dirty. It shows his innocence, even though he's a criminal being transported to a prison. It also shows how inefficient the prison is run because they're using an entire school bus to transfer one person.
And they use Shia LaBeouf as the person to portray all that, to communicate all that. I'm happy you were able to capture that through Shia LaBeouf's performance. Your personal friend, Shia LaBeouf.
A through line through all these movies will be the actors require no further research and no diving into their personal lives.
We'll have a disclosure.
Well, I'm just let's look at the cast of Ed Wood and then quickly look away because we don't want to.
Right, yeah. Yeah, this movie really endured.
One thing that is usually pretty obnoxious in movies that didn't strike me as douchey, this was in black and white and I had no issue with it and it never like really entered my brain once. Except the cover has the pink sweater. I felt like maybe they should have had the pink somewhere in there.
I would have liked that too. That would have made sense. Is this movie prior or AD Schindler's List? Because maybe it was just like, you know what, we shouldn't follow on the...
That's the line of demarcation in film.
Yeah, we shouldn't, follow on that.
Before Schindler, after Schindler.
Yeah, for black and white movies choosing only to do one.
Schindler's List came first. It was February that same year.
Okay. Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. So they're like, fuck that. We're not, we're not copying that.
I wouldn't call Schindler's List a comedy drama, though.
No, I wouldn't either.
I think we should start the way that we start all of our film talks. And this movie was 2 hours and 7 minutes. What was your favorite line?
My favorite line was from our actor Lobo. I'm blanking on his real name, but he was that wrestler guy. And it's when Ed Wood is telling him, how he thinks that he should be an actor, and responds like, oh, I think people have told me I'm too ugly to be one. And he says that he's handsome, and Lobo responds, do my toes. It's so good. Why does he have that voice? He sounds like a barred dinosaur.
He does sound like he doesn't speak English.
I know. No, he sounds like from some cave in the Balkans or something. It's great. I don't know where they found this dude, but it's awesome. I'm glad he said yes.
The Cinemassacre guys were big fans of that line as well. They also pointed it out as one of their favorites.
It's so good. This is so funny. But there's other good ones though. I mean,
Oh yeah, there's chock full of it. This one though I think stands as like the best. Home. I have no home. Hunted. Despised. Bleeding like an animal. The jungle is my home. No, I'm just messing with you. If you look good and talk well, people will swallow anything. Criswell says that during one of the parties. And I feel like that's sort of the overarching theme of Ed Wood, because whether or not you like him, I think depends on whether or not you think he believes his own bullshit.
Oh, that's true. I think he does, but that's what makes him admirable.
That's what I'm not sure about.
If he really believed the bullshit he was doing.
It's mostly because of how he uses Bela Lugosi. Anytime Bela Lugosi's in one of his films, Bela Lugosi's name appears before the title of the film or appears just as large. So he's definitely just trying to cash in on someone's star power.
Yeah, for sure.
That's how he got Glen or Glenda made in the first place.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't know, they have like such a bromance though, right? Because in Singing in the Rain, it's kind of like Don Lockwood and Cosmo Brown.
Right. Well, I mean,
Cosmo never tries to kill Don, but
right, right. He's unwell for the majority of the movie, for 90% of it, and then when he finally becomes sober and like probably normal, he ends up dying like months later, like the last 15-minute stretch of the movie. I think so. I don't know if what is an old addict reasonable? Probably not. Is he trustworthy? Probably not. So I mean, who knows? I'd like to think that it was a bromance. It was kind of an unhealthy relationship, maybe, where they felt like they needed each other. You know what I mean?
do you think they were enablers?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, man. One person needed the spotlight, and one person wanted, to make that spotlight. They needed each other for sure.
If you were in Ed Wood's position, who from the star system is your Bela Lugosi?
Do you have an answer in your head? I might need a minute. That's a good question.
I do have one answer, and if you're unhappy with the name of the actor, I would blame Google for saying they are washed up.
Who?
But for me, I would say it's the comedy legend Mike Myers.
No, I'd say that's fair. I think his the stuff gets shot on a lot. He's not really active anymore either, right? Like, he hasn't done anything in years.
I think it's because he's a family man, but he did do Netflix Penta Verite, and that's pretty decent.
Really? Okay. I'm gonna have to look that up. Oh, I remember who it is, man. And I mean, and I don't even know if he counts still. I mean, it does. Because he has a reboot coming, but it's Kelsey Grammer.
Right.
This is me. I'm a huge Frasier fan, and everything he did on those 11 seasons of Frasier was nothing less than magical. And he had a really hard run at it afterwards, man. he didn't do so well.
Does he have a podcast?
That's a good question. I don't know. He should. If he did, I'd be worried about what he'd be talking about. I don't know if I'd relate.
Frasier's about a radio show, right?
Yeah, he's the original podcaster. He should have gone on that way early on, but enough alcohol blurs your vision for the future. Maybe he's awesome though, man. He just did this terrible movie called Money Plane. Please just get yourself a 6-pack and sit down and watch it. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. And I feel so bad that Kelsey Grammer is he's acting alongside with retired WWE stars. It's tragic, dude. It's so tragic.
This is a true Ed Wood Bela Lugosi.
I want to save him from that and give him a BoJack story, but without the negative BoJack stuff.
I find myself looking for projects to want to cast him in. I think this is the perfect Bela.
Oh yeah, for sure. And he has the voice too. He's very
dignified.
Yeah, he sounds super Shakespearean when he wants to.
The same way Kelsey Grammer missed the podcast boat, how do you think Cameo would have changed Bela Lugosi's career?
Definitely not in a good way. It would have sped up his death if he wasn't sober already. But had he been sober, yeah, that can revive someone's relevancy a little bit. You know what I mean?
I think the big question we'll be answering over this is whether or not you think Ed Wood is a good director. Because the New York Times review said Tim Burton's very good film about a very bad filmmaker.
I don't know if that's fair to say, if he's a very bad filmmaker. Maybe very aloof. Maybe very under pressure, man. He's very under pressure. Making movies is expensive, and he did what he could with what he had. Granted, when he did bamboozle people out of their money, and he had enough to maybe go over some shots over again, and he didn't do it, that's a little bit that's where the delusion comes in. But otherwise, I think a lot of heart and love went in this. I love that he just really wanted to do this. You know what I mean? That's so cool.
I want to talk about that delusion a little bit, because when he does those justifications, it seems like something that's from that of a theater background. because you have to sort of justify why things happen during a live performance anyway.
Yeah.
So we saw his first show being just a theater show of some soldiers in the dunes. And the one big through line is that his dialogue is garbage. He can't write anything natural. So I feel like those justifications, like someone hitting a wall during a take, is more so him taking his theater experience and justifying it into film.
Does that also explain why he's so like cheery and happy and positive? Like the attitude you have in a play, to always be like just to go with it, be positive.
I think it's more he's just relentless in his goal, because I think what Johnny Depp is doing is more of like a SpongeBob personification of a director, just overly positive. No one's like that.
Good point. Yeah.
I mean, the dude had a huge drinking problem. Those are downers. He was probably depressed at different points.
Oh yeah, for sure. You're right. Yeah.
The way that he's laying up in bed at night thinking about how Orson Welles directed Kane at 26 and he's already 30. Like, I'm 28 and I'm like, oh man, Pete Davidson got SNL when he was just 20. Like, it's no different. So I feel like that's so relatable to any artist, because you're always comparing yourself to someone who is just leaps and bounds ahead of you.
But he also really appreciated, and like he had that scene later on in the movie where he's visualizing like meeting him, right?
Yeah, the writers admitted that one was 100% fabricated, but
but it's nice to think like he just really loves Wells, and he just admires him so much.
I guess that's sort of the positivity that this movie relies on its audience. They assume that all people are sort of agents of good and want to help out, which in Ed's case, I feel like he has a huge community of people around him willing to help him with anything.
Dude, he has such a loyal band of followers that were so down for him. He's a really lucky person, as well as being, like you said, relentless and like hardworking. You have good friends. I guarantee you he wasn't paying him like that, you know what I mean?
Oh, definitely. Let's like talk about the first film, right? Because you watched his original films before watching Ed Wood.
I did.
So you got to see Glen or Glenda without any context.
Without any context, man. It was cool to think like, back in time, and I'm just pretending I'm just some person in a theater and I'm seeing this for the first time, and I would be like freaking out. I'd be like, what the f is going on right now? And that way, Ed Wood, he did amazing.
The parts that were experimental, because the movie, it is narrative, but it does have these weird moments where it just sort of goes off and does its own thing, right?
Yeah, I like those moments too, though.
Did you like them sort of like laughing at how random it is, or did you appreciate the artistry of it?
No, both, but I like the artistry of it, Tim Burton's sharp, man. He's, how old was he when he made this? I wonder how much kinsmanship he felt with Ed Wood making this, because like you mentioned beforehand, like every artist like compares themselves to another like great artist maybe, and
Tim Burton said that there's a razor edge between good and bad. So I think all of the hate that this movie got, mostly because of it being named one of the worst movies of all time in the Golden Turkeys book, I think he was just sort of doing a in defense of Ed Wood.
Yeah. What a nice guy.
It's definitely a positive spin. I mean, they give it the Hollywood ending. Well, I guess it the Hollywood beginning and ending, right? Because it rains in West Hollywood, something that never happens.
Right, yeah.
Happens at two pivotal points at this man's life.
What a great way to start it, too. Once the whole play ends, and they're just discussing the review, and everyone is just focusing on all the insults, and he says the one positive thing is how the costumes look super realistic, and he's like, I know a bunch of movies who don't even get like recognized for their good costumes or something like that. I just thought, damn, that's probably the delusional part that I see, is as much as relentless as he might be.
Yeah, it feels like all his projects are such rush jobs. It's tough to think that, like, of course they don't go well. It feels like he puts absolutely no preparation into anything he does.
Right, yeah. And I mean, with some of the sets in like Glen or Glenda, like he didn't really think of anything. It's just a bunch of rooms, or it's just stock footage, man. How about the stock? We can get into the stock footage later.
No, we'll get in now.
You can get into it now. Okay, good.
It's like wasabi, right? You got to use it sparingly, and it was just absolutely caked.
Yeah, man, you got to use it sparingly. You got to have it complement stuff, and he was was crazy with some of the stuff he chose. It was hilarious at some points.
He made some interesting points, though. Like, I think it was when he was showing some of the stock footage of just traffic and cars. One of the, 6 times he does it. He was saying that just accepting trans people would make them more productive and better for their government. I've never seen that angle taken before, to be like, accept these people because they will do more productivity and help capitalism.
That's such a great point. Like, that's something I've never heard of before. It was so, like, I don't know, kind of depressing to hear. Like, let me join your club. Like, we're useful. You can still pay taxes. Damn, man. Like, that's what this. It sounds like that's what he's equating his identity and his soul to.
Glen or Glenda was almost like the most palatable experimental film.
Yeah, it was baby food. It was mind numbing. And if this was a way to get people from Midwestern places to be cool with LGBTQ stuff, like, I don't know if he knocked it out of the park, but Glen or Glenda was hard to finish, man. That was hard to. Did you finish it? Did you finish all 3 of them, or?
I watched all 3, Glen or Glenda.
Wow, dude, you're tough. I saw Planet 9 movie. I saw Glen or Glenda, but I couldn't watch the other one.
Well, that's the next one up on the deck, Bride of the Monster.
I mean, I saw some of it, but this one was that, like, the beginning was just, oh my god, so slow. It was brutal.
Yeah, I mean, this one also was a victim of terrible script, too much stock footage again. And then this one is an issue that even if you did theater, you know not to do this. He had dialogue with backs to the camera.
Oh, really? Yeah, he did, yeah.
That looks terrible. You don't see any expressions. You're not seeing the important part.
And someone definitely told him, man. Someone told him, and he was just like, it's good enough. It's done. You know what I mean? The movie isn't about the small details. It's about the big picture. It's about getting shit done. He's such a capitalist, but he doesn't have the tools or the skills to be a successful one, I guess. I don't know.
I wonder how he would do with a good script. Like, if it was something that was just considered a decent script, a good story, something that was heartfelt, whatever it be. Because his scripts are, I think, what kills all his projects.
It's that, yeah. His props and his settings, just like, again, just so half-assed. But for sure, I could overlook all of that if you have at least a strong script.
Yeah, give him 12 Angry Men. It's one room, 12 actors.
And an alien. And now we're talking. Now he knows what to do.
Lobo crushes through the front door, which he was one of the first people to do sort of a Lobo cinematic universe.
How's that?
Lobo, the character, appeared in multiple films. Tor Johnson played a character named Lobo, same brute. I think it was Night of the Ghouls and Bride of the Monster. So he beat Marvel to it.
He's a trailblazer.
I agree. I thought Bride of the Monster was boring. It felt old for its time.
Exactly, yo. Because Planet 9 was at least weird and so, like, almost surreal, where I'm like, what? It's nonsensical, but it's interesting. But Bride of the Monster was just boring. I feel like he was bored with it too. Like, he was just, that was probably his most, like, I gotta get this shit done. You know what I mean?
In this one, he was guilty of doing a thing that old film directors would do, similar to theater directors. They would just film what they would see on a stage, as opposed to getting over-the-shoulder shots and all these interesting angles. You know, you just kind of film a wide shot of it all. And that's what I felt like Ed Wood did a lot in his scenes. Like, oh, this is the lab? Well, the camera's going to be here, and it's never going to move.
Yeah. It's comparable to, like, back in olden YouTube times where you didn't have, like, a video capture card. You had to place a camera right in front of whatever video game you're playing to capture whatever sick montage you're trying to do. I don't know why. That's what came to me. that's how I relate to that.
That's true. You actually see a lot of pirated content that way too, just filming the TV screen, and you get those little electrical lines going across.
Yeah.
Of course, we would never pirate here, nor watch pirated content.
I don't support that, man. That's bad stuff. It's not good food.
At this point in Ed Wood's life, he got Bride of the Monster, but this is when his relationship sort of goes in the toilet. And I think there is something to say about a creator and their relationship with their work and the relationship with their partner. It seems to be a regular sort of sacrifice that the creator has to make where their partner sort of gets neglected in the process of making their art.
I would argue he even like he used his girlfriend. Like I felt like there was some usury there. In the same way there was some usury with Bela, where like again the relentless, I'll do anything to make my dreams come true. He just like admits shit to her that he didn't say in private that he probably should have.
Yeah, he's not that honest.
And he uses her for these super like vulnerable and raw and a little maybe too close for comfort roles that maybe she didn't want to do in the first place. But he needed heads, he needed people on the ground. I don't know. I feel like he must have been a very charming person. He must have been a very charming, manipulative person to get trusted so many times.
Yeah, I don't know how he didn't feel guilty doing some of the things that he did, or at least like, was he transparent?
He must have thought like it'll be worth it if I do my magnus opus.
That's where I hope that he believes his own delusion, because if he was really using the people in this way, he really is as scummy as George Weiss, or as scummy as we are supposed to believe George Weiss is.
For sure. Do you think Tim Burton is kind of hiding that well? Do you think he believes that he's kind of scummy and manipulating?
Like, again, I'm very cynical in general, but I can't say for sure what I think about this character, and I think that what contributes to me thinking this is his best piece.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
It's like that razor edged line between selfish and passion, and I think obviously he teeters on both sides of it, where he's so passionate, but then things that he does are just so, you have no integrity, you know? Like, I felt myself siding with Dolores when she lost her part.
Oh yeah. And his response was there's plenty of other parts, and then she raises her a pan and she's like what? And then he responds with
the secretary, the file clerk.
And then she charges at him with this amazing growl. That's great. And I felt that, like, how could you, man? She's such a down ass person. She believes in your loser ass, and you're gonna do her dirty like that. and then your stupid ass gets conned anyway, so you deserve it, dummy.
So I think as we get into him making Plan 9 from outer space, his absolute best one.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what you thought was good about Plan 9.
I like that.
I can get the ball rolling if you want.
Yeah. Please.
Similar to Glen or Glenda with the good message, it was a very anti-war, anti-nuclear sort of narrative. And again, his friends got baptized for him in this one.
Potentially getting arrested.
Giving you stock footage, like...
Man, it's a great group of friends. He was really loved. You could tell that, man.
Yeah, he was either loved or he found the most patient crew of people you could ever come across.
Then again, like going back to him being crazy lucky then that he found these people that believed in his delusions as much as he did.
I looked up, I found out color was not widely used until the 1950s, and this one came out in 59, so his stuff must have been so low budget that he couldn't even afford
color.
Some of the props that people say are laughable, I thought were pretty, like, clever. I thought it was, like, good budget filmmaking. I think the UFOs being on fire on the fishing poles, like, I think I agree with him there, where it's like, it doesn't matter if it looks fake, it's the big picture.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't take me out of a movie if I saw that in something and I was still enjoying the story and stuff. So I agree that he's, like, clever and smart for using props that way.
The part that took me out of the movie was the fact that it was a weird genre blend. The sci-fi horror.
I don't think that was really done right until Alien. So he was, you know what, he had a head start. He didn't do so well, but this is the very first horror sci-fi movie probably, right?
Horror in the sense of, like, classic horror with...
Right.
Yeah, because, like, obviously, I'm sure there have been scary films that take place in space. I think it really speaks to him being a bad writer at this point, because another very good indie horror film, Night of the Living Dead, was also in black and white, and happened in 1968.
I'm so happy you mentioned that. That's great. Yeah, and that also had amazing dialogue, shot in one house, so they really had to reuse a lot of stuff. But I mean, they did so well. Romero did a lot of stuff better though. And how much more money he had.
I don't think the budget was that high for Night of the Living Dead. I think it was pretty comparable.
It wasn't, man. There was no way.
But I bet he was more patient.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure he was more patient and humble about his skills, maybe.
Which I think that might be the better Ed Wood film, the filming of George Romero's Night of the Living Dead.
So sorry, say that again.
Like an Ed Wood about Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I thought that was a good comparison point for Ed Wood's films because it's both a horror, it's black and white, it's low budget, and it happens almost a decade later.
And they both revolutionized the game, just in different parts of history. Romero almost, maybe not almost immediately, but eventually he does with the zombie craze and with like, he kind of just like made the laws of how zombies react and stuff. And then with Ed Wood, with bad, good movies and appreciating them, was kind of the OG of that. We're appreciating him now for it.
I think he was just really utilizing the star system and taking advantage of Bela Lugosi's name for how he got all of his movies made, because the people he recruited had some level of fame. Criswell was on late night shows. Vampira had her own like TV show, and even Tor was a wrestler, so at least there's some type of following built in.
Exactly. And it just goes back to me, like, how did he con all these people into doing his dog shit? Like, he was some charming SOB back then. He had to be.
So overall, I think his writing's garbage. I think he's good with his theatrics, but everything's just a rush job. It's just, there's no patience. It's all passion with no direction.
And you think like Glen or Glenda would be the one, maybe? That's so extremely personal, and it was so rushed, and like you why wouldn't you take the time? Like,
it was built on a lie. Like, I think George wanted to see nudity. He wanted to see, like, he wanted stuff that would titillate the audience.
And eventually he did later in his career, Ed Wood.
He became George.
Became George. He changed the type of art. The same medium, just a different type of art. I'm not going to shame him for going porn.
The documentary I watched on him, I guess he was one of the... I'll give him credit. He was the first one to film fellatio in a coffin.
That's awesome. There we go.
Before we get into the people's review of the movie, wanted to talk a little bit about the in-movie audience's reaction to Ed Wood's films. Because if there's one flaw in this, they make that so unclear. It's just anarchy in the theater.
Yeah, it makes you second guess if this is like all a dream, or this is all like flashback bullshit, or if these people back then are absolutely unhinged monsters who, I don't even think the movie started and they were already like rioting and shit, throwing shit everywhere.
One thing we'll suspend our disbelief for is that this is the second straight movie where they can just get parking right in front of the movie. No other cars around.
There's no one else parked there, dude. Everyone else walked from their shanties.
Full theater, one car in front. And that's Singing in the Rain, too. That's not just Ed Wood.
Oh, right. That's right. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I didn't get it because Vampira got felt up. They were throwing stuff already. I think they were interrupting the intro.
So it's like the crowd didn't even give it a chance to show how shitty it was. You know what I mean? So like, what were they writing about? I don't know. That was weird. I don't know.
I think he would have liked any reaction to his movie. So it's just strange to me that they would have shown one that he wasn't favorable towards.
Yeah. No, I don't get it either.
Okay. Well, as long as we're both unclear about that part, about an otherwise film we can almost categorize as a masterpiece. At the time of our recording this, a very popular movie website, out of 179,000 user ratings at the time of recording, it is up to a 7.8 out of 10.
Really? Just a 7.8?
Yeah, C+.
That's surprising. Wow, the dialogue in the script in this movie is so good. It's so damn good, and I mean, even cinematically, like, the angles he used for this was so much different than other movies I think that he does. It was very like from back then type angles, very nostalgic of noir type filmmaking.
He didn't plan any of his shots ahead of time.
Really? Oh, that's even more impressive.
Tim Burton wanted to go for that Ed Wood style, so he didn't plan any of the camera angles and shots of his locations. He decided to figure it out on the fly.
And then you see his creativity there, man. That's so surprising. Wow, that's definitely one of his strongest works, and he did it so young. I wonder what he did after. Probably Edward Scissorhands, probably. But that's surprising, man. I'd give it a 8.5 to be honest. I mean, or maybe a 9. Honestly, a 9. I think it's his best. It's his best, and then that's only because I'm not into sing-songy, and that's not to degrade or make fun of musicals, you know what I mean? Because he did Sweeney Todd, and a lot of his animated stuff has songs in them and whatnot. But when it comes to just straight up movies, this right here, man, this is A1 sauce. I really loved it. I'm surprised that it's not that well received, because the C+ isn't. It's not a C+. It's so much better than that. It deserves so much more credit.
I would also give it a 9. That was the number I was thinking. Like, I feel like a lot of people want to be precious about hitting that 9 threshold, but I think it hits it. I think it's right past the line of being worth it.
I think it's right there, right at 9.0. You know what? It's funny. You mentioned early on, who would your Bela Lugosi be? You know, if you had to bring one, and it's almost like Tim Burton chose his in Bill Murray, because that was around the time where he was doing a lot of garbage. A lot. I mean, I'm sure, I don't know who he had debts to, but he was doing a lot of shit. And this, like, he was so charming in this. He was so fluid, and I ate up his character. He was great. And then I think after this, Wes Anderson adopted him, and also Bela Lugosi'd him, and then he kind of had a resurgence, sort of.
Tim Burton's Bela Lugosi is Bill Murray.
Bill Murray, dude, and he had him there, and he did great.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that Wes Anderson wants him shows that he sort of graduated. I think Wes Anderson's held in higher regard than Tim Burton today, right?
I would say so. Yeah, I would say so.
Although my little secret to you, Mario, I think Wes Anderson's writing's kind of shit.
I would agree with you there, pal.
I wanted to see Grand Budapest just about like how beautiful it looked, how it was shot. Yeah. And then I watched it and I was like, I've been bored most of this time.
I saw Darjeeling Limited, and I despised it. I hated it so much. And I thought the same thing, like, I'm so bored. Everything's so teal.
Yeah, I think in terms of recent movies, maybe one day we'll do The Fabelmans, Steven Spielberg's movie about making movies.
Oh, yeah? All right. That's on the menu.
Just sort of a word about our schedule. I think we would like to average about one a month. But at this point, it takes a lot of time to do an episode. In this case, we had to watch 4 different movies just to get this one episode out.
He's the brains. He keeps this going.
Oh, that's such a nice line that I'll cut. No, I just want to sort of put a schedule expectation out there that even though at the time of recording, none of these episodes have been released yet, but for the listening audience, I would expect about one every month in terms of next month's episode. We will be looking at the movie The Disaster Artist, starring equally unproblematic James Franco as they recreate the 2003 cult classic The Room.
Yeah, it's, There's been too much said about The Room, and I can't wait to get into that again. And Tommy Wiseau actually just came out with Bad Shark or Big Shark, something like that. Something he's been working on for 10 years, and it's as amazing as you think it is.
I haven't seen The Room. I'm excited to, because I didn't find Ed Wood's films to be laughably bad.
No. Oh, that's another thing too, where like none of his movies were laughably bad. So
sort of overall, I think Ed Wood is a good director, worst writer that's ever existed, potentially.
Yeah. I think I would agree entirely with that too. So much heart. Rest in peace, man. He's in a better place, I hope.
I think, no, he is in a better place because he's in this sort of air of conversation. He's being kept relevant in the world of film by 2 people outside the world of film, which is something I think he would really relate to.
Oh, God, that's so true. Oh, man. He's a champion. He's a champion. Honestly, he's our champion. And I'm gonna find a little statue of him and put it in my room.
I actually think we should replace the Hollywood sign and just make it say Ed Wood now.
It just said,
All right. Well, until next time, I'll let Johnny Depp take it away.
That's a wrap.